When it comes to presuppositional apologetics, the question arises whether it is pointless to even engage in any form of debate or refutation. The presuppositionalist already proclaims absolute certainty, and if you've seen part 7 of my original series, it is impossible for me to even agree with the core claim of this form of apologetics, namely that everyone already knows that God exists. Moreover, if you've seen part 8, it should be clear that even agreeing with the presuppositionalist amounts to nothing, as it merely adds a meaningless three-letter word to one's worldview that neither explains nor accounts for anything. However, I think there are several reasons why it is not only meaningful but important to deal with presuppositionalism. 1. Bad arguments need to be put in their place. If you value truth, reason and logic, then you will not allow these things to be hijacked by people who neither apply nor value them. 2. It is important for educational purposes. I've received much appreciation for my series against presuppositional apologetics, and even though the apologists won't learn anything, other people will. 3. Presuppositionalism is absurd but deals with extremely important topics. The nature of reality, the nature of knowledge, logic, epistemology, what we can be certain about and what not, what degrees of certainty there are, brain in the vat scenarios, and how these foundational concepts relate to supernatural claims are all extremely interesting and important topics that need to be discussed and which already are topics I discuss in my other videos. 4. Most people haven't thought much about these topics. Most people don't really know their own epistemology and are therefore unprepared to deal with difficult questions regarding such fundamental issues. We need to discuss these kind of things, not merely to counter presuppositionalists, but to strengthen our own worldview with a firm basis for rationality. Remember that atheists do not actually share a particular worldview per se. I disagree with many of my fellow atheists when dealing with these fundamental issues. It is often frustrating to see people conceding that they could be wrong about everything, that they may not exist, and that the laws of logic are not absolute or could be false. Which leads into the final reason, which may sound surprising at first. We can actually learn from the presuppositional methodology. This may sound absurd, but it is not. Regardless of all the insanity found in presuppositional apologetics, there is at least one thing they get right. One thing in their methodology that I not only appreciate, but which I actually use myself and which I actively encourage. And that's to deal with other worldviews on a foundational level. I have used this analogy multiple times before. If we picture worldviews as buildings, tearing down a building by hacking away with a pickaxe on the roof is a tedious process, especially if the residents are constantly trying to fix the damage. But planting dynamite in the foundation will destroy it completely and will leave the residents helpless between the rubble, harsh as it may sound. As a naturalist, I'd rather tear the rug out from underneath supernatural claims than to argue details with the proclaimers. Now, I don't want people to misunderstand me. I'm not critical of counter-apologists using the pickaxe approach by any means. Creationist claims should be countered, and historical apologetic claims and supposed scientific foreknowledge and what have you does need to be answered. I applaud my fellow skeptics who analyze these claims in detail and refute them. When people make false claims, those claims should be put in their place, so such material needs to be out there. But what I am promoting is that the intellectual arsenal of skeptics in general and naturalists in particular also require a nuclear program. And that's one thing presuppositionalists get right. They just fail miserably at it because they are standing on a factually wrong worldview which has a foundation that is more or less non-existent. Nevertheless, attacking your opponent's presuppositions and assumptions can be a very effective and destructive method. If you want an example of a foundational attack on religious claims, I advise you to watch my video The Futility of Religious Apologetics. Even though I made an 8-part video against presuppositional apologetics, I still haven't covered all the individual subtopics and claims. So in this new series, I'm going to expand upon the original series.